Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today, I'm going to be talking about the new album from Kaskade, entitled Automatic. Kaskade's been around since 2001, making house music, but chances are, if you know him for anything, it's for 2008's I Remember, his collaboration with deadmau5. Ever since I Remember became a hit, Kaskade has become one of the foremost house producers of recent times. And quite frankly, I actually think he's one of the more interesting house producers of recent times as well. The thing that sets Kaskade apart from his contemporaries is that he likes to do some more subdued and soulful material, kind of a go on the quieter side. His earlier work felt kind of like this interesting hybrid between house music and smooth jazz. I realize that sounds terrible, but trust me, Kaskade did make it work. He could simultaneously get you to, relax, but also get your foot tapping and humming along with the melody. As time went on, he started to focus more on house and trance music, and he admittedly has had a couple of pretty albums along the way. But he's never completely let go of that style that he came up with in the beginning. So, here's my thoughts on his discography so far. Plenty of variety to be found on here. There's some great catchy house tracks like the title track, and some more calming jazzier tracks as well, like Charlie's Plight. And though there are a couple of tracks in there, the good moments outweigh the bad. Pretty enjoyable overall. This one has a little more focus on his house and dance kind of stuff, but still retains that same smooth and subtle style we saw in It's You, It's Me. As the title might suggest, this one is much more focused on the softer and jazzier side. Not as catchy as the two before it, but it's definitely an interesting listen, would recommend it. And this one's kind of mediocre. It does have the same kind of bubbly, light style that we saw in the Moment, but there's far less variety. It's kind of boring. So this is the beginning of Trance Kaskade. deadmau5 collaborates with him on 2 tracks, but his influence is felt throughout the album. Repetitive, but better in my opinion. Oh boy. This album is probably his worst. There are a couple of good songs on here, but the album's pretty forgettable as a whole. This album's decent in its first half, but its second half, with all the Ice Mix rewrites, takes it from a okay album to one of Kaskade's better albums. This, I think, is actually my favorite Kaskade album to date. There's a lot of variety to be found here, several instrumental tracks, which is good, and there's a lot of quieter tracks, but there's also a bunch of house stuff as well. And that brings us to his most recent album, Automatic. This is his 9th to date. Kaskade's been hyping this album up as his most diverse album to date. And given how eclectic and varied atmosphere was, that should really be saying something. Is it really? No. Diverse is not the word I would use. Pretty much every song on Automatic follows the typical build-up, drop formula of EDM. Kaskade does still have his couple of surprises up his sleeve for this album, but for the most part, it's disappointingly predictable. The good news, however, is that there are some of his best melodies on here to date, some of his catchiest songs. The production was a little samey sounding, especially at the beginning, but as time went on, I did eventually start to realize it was a little more diverse than I had originally seen it as. So the album kinda gets off to a rocky start. The first song, We Don't Stop, is pretty good, it's got a good melody, and it's the only song that Kaskade does entirely by himself, including singing, but other than that, it's not a huge standout. So then the next 2 tracks, Us and Mercy, those are probably the weakest points on the album. Both are kind of forgettable in my opinion. The vocals on both of these songs are super filtered, and the drop sounds like really screechy and Avicii-esque. Mercy's definitely the better out of the 2, though it sounds less like an actual Kaskade track and sounds like a Galantis track instead. Which, makes sense because Galantis co-produced it, but still, Kaskade was a total non-presence on this one. And then there's Us. This song just has not been getting better with repeated listens. I think it even borrows the melody from Justin Bieber at one point.
Our thoughts are silent, transparent. You know you love me, I know you care.
Thankfully, after kind of those rocky first 3 tracks, it does get better. Tear Down These Walls has a build-up that is just unremarkable, but the drop actually sounds like something out of Love Mysterious, actually pretty good. Then we got Phoenix, which is one of my favorite tracks on this album. It kind of has a little bit of a sad, melancholy tone to it, maybe even a little kind of bluesy. And also it's catchy as all heck. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Then we got Disarm You. That was one of the pre-album singles. It's fun and catchy, but nothing really special in my opinion. Then we got Never Sleep Alone. Never Sleep Alone's also a pre-album single, and when I first heard it, I didn't like it at all, because the build-up sounded like Daft Punk's Get Lucky.
She's up all night to the sun, I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun, I'm up all night to get lucky.
But listening to it now, it's actually one of the better tracks off the album. Yes, the build-up has the same chords and is in the same key as Get Lucky, but Kaskade did a really good job on making it actually his own track. Also, the drop is one of the more interesting drops on the album. Though I still don't get what is so bad about sleeping alone. I mean, I've done it for pretty much every single night of my life, except sometimes when I shared a bed with my brother and he hogged all the covers and... Moving on. So next we had Day Trippin'. This has some really awesome piano chords right at the beginning. I liked it pretty much immediately. And the drop kinda is more like Love Mysterious. But I couldn't get the feeling that I had also heard this one before somewhere. Then I realized this one seems to borrow off of California Girls by Katy Perry. Well, obviously it's not exactly the same, but despite the borrowed melody, Day Trippin' is still one of the better tracks on the album, in my opinion. Like with Never Sleep Alone, Kaskade's production won out in the end. So then we got Promise and Breaking Up. These are two kind of more along the lines of his earlier It's You, It's Me style. The problem with these two though I do like their kind of old Kaskade production, they're not particularly catchy, they don't get stuck in your head. So next we got A Little More. That was the first single off the album, and I also really liked that one on first listen. The melody was pretty catchy, they had some pretty cool violin sounds outside of the drop. The drop itself was okay. This bugged me less and less as I heard the track more and more. Next we had Papercuts. This one has this weird off-kilter beat in parts of it that totally caught me off guard. It's one of the more interesting tracks. Finally, there was Where Are You Now and Whatever. Okay, first of all, Kaskade, do not make the Justin Bieber references a trend. Please. As for the actual song, Where Are You Now, I do like it is kind of on the quieter side, but it kind of ended up pretty forgettable. And then the final track, Whatever, that actually had these cool guitar sounds on it, kind of had this trippy feel to it. Closed out the album on a high note. So, overall, I was hoping for more variety out of this album. I was hoping for some quieter tracks, maybe some instrumentals on the side, kind of like Atmosphere did. It was definitely disappointing at first because it felt like he was following trends rather than doing his own thing for most of this album. But as I listened to it more and more, I realized this is actually a pretty dang good album. Overall, feeling a 7.7 out of 10 on this one. Favorite tracks, We Don't Stop, Phoenix, Never Sleep Alone, Day Trippin', A Little More, Papercuts, and Whatever. Least favorite track, Us. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you heard this album, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments, or if you have any other requests for what I should review next, though I do have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to be reviewing next. A different album that also came out on the same day as Automatic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.